I hope you know that you are loved, but the greatest love that can be given to man is that of self. So that I hope that if you are plagued with the desire to people please, the desire to lend a helping hand and hate yourself after it, I pray that it comes to an end and you come to the realization of how powerful and beautiful you can become if you love yourself and you set healthy boundaries. Hey, my fabulous listeners, welcome to the show where we talk about the universe and everything in between, or at least whatever I have Googled in the last 24 hours. I'm your amazing and delightful host, Shadi Lulu. And if you're listening to this, congratulations, you're finally made it. Like, you're finally leveled up in your life by choosing me, by choosing to spend this precious few minutes with me, and I do not take it for granted. Whether you're here for the wisdom, the laughs, my amazing and awesomeness, or just because you accidentally clicked a cat or a dog video and you stumbled here, I am thrilled to have you. So buckle up, my cupcakes. It's about to get delightfully beautiful and weird in here. By the way, cupcakes is not like a stamped name here, so let's keep on going. Today we're diving into a topic that touches every single one of us, or we may have experienced one way or another, and that's grief. Specifically, I'll be talking about grieving the death of a loved one. Now, grief is the most universal human experience, yet is the most isolating and the most personal experience. Why did I say that it's the most isolating and personal? It's because there are no two people that grieve the same way, and there's no right way to do it. So, different strokes for different folks. So, I am not coming to you from my wealth of PhD knowledge. However, I'll share a personal story at the end. But what we're going to do here is explore what grief is, how it affects us, and how we can navigate it in ways that honors both ourselves and our loved ones. So, what is grief? Grief is more than just sadness. It's more than just the burial preparation. It's more than just the flashbacks. It's a complex emotional response to loss, and it can manifest in so many ways. It could be through anger, it could be through guilt, confusion, numbness, and even relief. It's not just an emotional experience, it's also physical, it's also mental and spiritual too. There are days you're going to feel very much exhausted, forgetful, and even physically ill. And that's very okay. Grief is your body and your mind's way of processing something monumental. It's the process of realizing the absence of someone who probably has been a very big part of your life. It's very important to remember that there's no timeline, and like I said earlier, there are no two people that grieve the same way. You might have heard of the 5 stages of grief, which includes denial, anger, beginning, depression, and acceptance. But these stages aren't linear, so it's not a stage 1 to a stage 2. It's not a processed flow thing. You might have a cycle through them, skip some, or even experience every single one of them at the same time. I'm here to tell you that grieving is messy, and that's totally normal. One of the most important things to understand about grief is it's deeply personal. Your grief is yours and yours alone. And it will look different from any other one, from any person's grief. So let's use 3 examples. So let's say losing a parent. It might bring up moments of your own level of mortality. Losing a parent can remind you that, oh, you're probably going to die soon. Then another one here is losing a partner. Losing a partner is basically you losing somebody you shared your life with, whether it's for a month or 2 or 5 years or 10 years. You're not looking at the time. You're looking at somebody you had decided to take a journey with, and the person just left you. So who you are becomes who that person was rather in your life. The identity, the space that person filled becomes so huge of a vacuum. You can also look at losing a child. This might feel like the ultimate injustice, throwing the usual, God, why me? It's a loss that defies the nature order of things. But these are relationships, whether you're looking at, again, I said, with your parent, your lover, your partner, your child, your pet, whatever. And then there's the part where you have to think about the relationship you had with this person. Was it complicated? Was it loving? Was it draining? All those factors tend to shape how we grieve. So if you ever catch yourself thinking, I shouldn't feel this way, or I should be over this by now, I'm here to tell you that you have to learn to stop. You have to learn to stop policing yourself. You have to learn to stop putting yourself under that spotlight, because there's no shouldn't grieve. Your feelings are very much valid, no matter what they are. So what we're going to do now is to navigate this incredible process, this incredible experience, or this difficult experience. The most important thing is to first give yourself permission to feel. So when you're going through something or you're experiencing something, I've come to understand that you have to learn to let yourself to feel and interpret that emotion, both emotionally and physically and mentally. Grief is not something you can fix or get over. It's something you move through, and it takes time. So I need you to learn to allow yourself to cry, to scream, to laugh, to sit in silence, whatever the need may be at that moment. The second thing you have to learn to do is lean on your support system. When people say things like you can't do life alone, they're not just talking about marriage or companionship. They're talking about relationships in general. And they were not joking. Grief can feel isolating. Sometimes you tend to ask yourself, do people really understand what I'm going through? But you don't have to go through it alone. You have to talk to friends, to families, to a therapist if you can, or sometimes just a stranger. If you're not ready to talk, you can consider journaling or finding a support group where you can connect with others who understand what you're going through. Another way, and the third way here we can navigate grief, is to take care of yourself. I always tell people that ever care to listen, you cannot draw from an empty well. In the process of the hurt, in the process of analyzing your hurt, you also have to learn to take care of yourself. Grief can be very exhausting, both emotionally and physically. So you have to learn to eat, to sleep, and to move your body. You could go for short walks. You could jump on the treadmill. You could lift some weights. But don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't feel like you have to do everything on your own. Learn to ask for help. You can ask somebody to cook, someone to pick the kids, someone to handle the laundry. You just don't have to do it all on your own. And finally, you have to find ways to honor your loved ones. This could be through a ritual, reading their favorite book, watching their favorite movie, seeing their favorite movie, eating their favorite food, lighting a candle. It could be through actions, like donating to a cause that they cared about, or living in a way that best reflects their values. Honoring them can help you feel connected to their memory and bring a sense of meaning to your life. It's important to say that grief does not end, it evolves. Over time, the sharp pain you feel might soften, but that doesn't mean you've moved on. It means you've learned to carry your loss with you. You might find certain ways, certain days, certain birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, or even harder than others. That's very normal. Grief can also resurface unexpectedly, triggered by a song, a smell, a movie, a joke, a memory, and that's very much okay too. What's most important is to be gentle with yourself. Grief isn't something you get over. Remember, it's something you integrate into your life. And as you do, you will find that it's very much possible to hold both the pain of loss and the joy of life at the same time. Before I round up, I'd like to share a very, very short story of when I was grieving my granddad. I think that was in 2022. I'll never forget that day. I was sleeping, and at that time I was in Ekiti. I was serving. I was sleeping when my dad called me. My dad called me, and we're Christians, so we say things in different ways. And then he told me, "Don't cry. Your granddad has gone to sleep." At that point, I could process what he was saying, but I just did not want to process it. So I slept back. I went back to sleep after the conversation. And I remember when I woke up, I couldn't cry. I don't think I've ever been able to. think I ever wept over my granddad. I don't think I ever did for once. But everything that I remembered when I woke up that day after my dad had told me was his smile, his laugh, his joyful face, his joyful countenance. My dad would call me all the way from, my granddad rather, would call me all the way from Enugu to ask me how service was going. He would pray over me. He would talk to me. When I was like 10, I promised to get him a private jet. So every single time he calls me, he'll be like, hey, I could see you got them private jets. And I'll be like, I'm working towards it, give me time. And the funny thing is, I could remember the burial because everybody that I ever heard talk about him, they always said the same thing. He was a loving person. He was very peaceful. He was very kind. He was very loving. Loving. Like I wish there was something deeper and more intimate than loving because that's who my grandfather was. So whenever I remember my grandfather, I have this image in my head. I have this picture of him in my head. Even when he came to Lagos, there was a time he came to Lagos, he was speaking Yoruba with me. And I'm like, with I'm in Lagos, I don't understand Yoruba. Why are you speaking Yoruba to me? So he would tell me, he would tell you stories. He loves telling stories. But I think a part of me changed when he died. I'm not grateful he died. I'm not happy he died. But I'm grateful and happy that he lived his life the way he did because it's a big ass lesson to me and it's the same way I'd like to be remembered by people that are dear to my heart when I actually go. So yeah, in closing, grieving the death of a loved one is one of the hardest things you ever do. But it's also a testament to the love we shared with that person. It's a testament to the memories we made. Grief is love with nowhere to go. So, as you navigate your own grief, remember this: it's very much okay to not be okay. It's also okay to ask for help, and it's okay to find moments of joy even in the midst of your pain. You do not walk alone, and your grief is a reflection of the love that would always remain. Thank you for listening. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need it. And if you're grieving right now, just know that I'm holding a space for you in my heart. I pray that God gives you the strength and the grace to walk. I pray that He gives you the strength and the grace to stand. I pray that when you fall, you're going to find men and women filled with love, filled with compassion to be with you. I pray that He gives you a circle of men and of women that would hold your hand and be with you. I pray that He would dry. I pray that even when your tears dry, you will still be filled with so much love, peace, and happiness. And please do take care of yourself. This is me wishing you long life, peace, and prosperity. And I do pray that God grants every one of us longevity. Bye, everybody.
Hi, I'm Kilichi. For me, grief means having a very sharp needle pierced through your heart, and you're still expected to move on with life as though nothing happened. And this pain is a pain you cannot share with any other person except yourself. I remember when I lost my mom, it was as though people around me didn't understand what I was going through, and I was just expected to move on with life as though nothing happened. But yeah, thank God for God, right? Thank God for God. I mean, I've moved past that phase in life. I have healed properly, and I'm very, very grateful for God because if it was not God's help, I would have been a mess by now.